Are we there yet? Are we live? Are we definitely live? Is this working? Hello, world. Yes. So, I think we had a little bump around there at the beginning. I can see the chat, guys. So, like I said, we're going to bounce around a few things. I've got some things lined up, and I've been looking at movies and thinking about movies, because we'll cover everything here when I go live. Everything. And I know, look, I know what Kick is. I know there's a lot of different things on here. Right, okay, so it seems to be going down. Well, I'm just going to keep recording, because who cares? We're going to first go to a movie that I first snuck into the cinema in 1975. God, 1975. And I'd been going to a couple of Saturday morning cinemas. And we've got some stories about them, and we'll get into them later. You know, go see the cartoons, the westerns, and it wasn't really big cinema screens. It was sort of King Kong movies from like 1940s and all sorts that was there. So I went to see Jaws, and I snuck into the side door. In my town, you had two cinemas. You had the Focus and the Gormont. And that was it, two big cinemas in a small town. We haven't got one now. So I managed to sneak in through the side doors, and you had to run everywhere to hide from the ushers. Because then they still sold ice cream, they still brought ice cream rounds and all those different things. I don't remember if smoking was still allowed in the cinema then. Jaws. And because I remember everyone was telling me my older brother had been to see it and said it was like the scariest thing he'd ever seen in his life. And I know now who wrote it, Peter Benchley, and we can talk about that in a bit. But we're going to look at the scene where Shaw is talking to Scheider and talking and Dreyfus. There's the three of them on the boat. Their relationship is established, but it's not been cemented yet. This is the stage where they're going from being the hunted to the hunted. That's how it's beginning to feel. And he talks about the USS Indianapolis. Let's hear it.
Chief, don't you worry about it, Chief. It won't be permanent. You want to see something permanent? Boom, boom, boom. Hey, oh, you want to feel something permanent? Just put your hand underneath my cap. Just feel a little lump. Knock on Nolan, St. Patty's Day, Boston.
I got that.
It's just male egos at play. It's drunken talk. Happens every time. You get a bunch of guys together, and this is what we'll do eventually. Especially if there's some not alpha male, but if there's some sort of testosterone in the room. You know, I'm an ex-soldier. You stick a bunch of soldiers in a room, and we'll generally mock each other. So this starts. You'll get a sense that maybe they're going to mock each other a little bit, but tell real stories at the same time. Yeah.
Beat. I got that beat.
It has.
Some moray eel. Fit right through my wetsuit.
So Dreyfus immediately goes to the eel, but he switches back.
Well, nope, no, listen, I don't know about that, but I entered an arm wrestling contest in an Oki bar in San Francisco. You see this? Now I can't extend that. You know why? Got to the semifinal. Celebrating my third wife's demise. Big Chinese fella, he pulled me right off.
Look at that. It's a bull shark. Scraped me when I was taking samples.
I got something for you. That's the thresher. You see that? Chief, thresher's tail.
Thresher? It's a shark.
You want a drink? Drink your leg?
I'll drink to your leg.
Okay, so we drink our legs.
And Scheider's looking down at his car going, And he could have told them and they wouldn't have cared, because they were just in a moment. There was a bit of mockery, there was self-sharing. That's as close as you'll get to guys as being emotionally open in this context. But in this movie, there was Yeah, there was some competing egos, and the shark had the biggest. And Peter Benchley, when he wrote this, he also wrote The Deep and a couple of other novels, and it got rejected. But later in life, he thought he'd been part of a movement that was sort of became anti-shark around the world, and that this film would cause sharks harm. There was no statistical truth for that. And it caused him to actually get really behind marine conservation, which isn't a bad thing. But there was no proof that everybody went out blowing up sharks just because of Jaws. I suspect at the time, we all knew sharks were dangerous because it was in the water. Anything in the water is dangerous when you're a kid, yeah? But when this came out, and as much as you can... It's a film I haven't seen in about 44 years. I went to see it, saw it again, and I've never watched it. Why? Because it had such an impact. I don't need to watch it again to remember it, but I am going to watch it again because it's beginning to fade a little bit now as my older brain starts to add a little bit. So I want to remind myself of it. And that's why I brought this up. A, to remind me to go and see the film again, and B, just to explore this scene from a great movie. Because in 1972, movies would... blockbusters they hadn't really been invented. There'd been big movies, but the age of the blockbuster was dying. 72 had been a revival with The Godfather, opened in North America and then worldwide, and it started hitting $1 million a day takings. So it was like, well, okay, and this did it again and smashed it in 75. Then in 76, what did you have? The Star Wars, which smashed it again. So this was also the birth of that individual unique blockbuster. We didn't have sequels then, although there was a Godfather 2, but it hadn't been made yet. This spawned many films. Star Wars spawned many films, but the original foundation of that blockbuster back in the cinemas worldwide, released in America, North America, and then worldwide, this set the bar and set the bar high.
I got the creme de la creme. Right here. Hold on. Hey, you see that?
You're wearing a sweater.
Right there. Mary Ellen Moffat. She broke my heart.
Did you know, so Shaw told a story about getting drunk in a fight about a girl. Dreyfuss told a story about a shark. Shaw, they've alternated between two personal stories that are non-shark related but are still in that ilk. And Dreyfuss has just done it again, and Scheider said nothing. He's like looking on going, well, I'm literally, I'm a small town sheriff in a town on the beach. What war story am I going to tell? He does have them. So it's rotated twice, which has been letting you dip in and out of different sides of their character.
What's that one?
What?
That one there, on your arm.
Oh, well, it's a tattoo. I got that removed.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Mother.
Typical. Because he knows he's a shark hunter.
What is it?
Stupid, that's the USS.
See, the little squeeze, as if to say, hang on a minute, son. The little squeeze was the preempt to say, I'm about to tell you something that's not going to make you laugh, so you need to listen closely. And he turns to him. Did you see it? The little squeeze, the firmness. So it's gone from polite, it's not violence, but it's a sort of, just stop a second. Yeah, stop a second, because what you've spotted is something I don't talk about.
Indianapolis.
That exhale is the air leaving the room. It really is. It's just the air leaving the room. He'll know. Yeah, and we'll come on to the Indianapolis. I've got something for us to look at because I want to find out. Let's hear the dialogue and watch the beautiful acting. Should have got an Oscar for this. Absolutely didn't, because it was a monster movie, really.
You were on the Indianapolis?
Although it was more.
What happened?
Japanese submarine slammed 2 torpedoes into our side, Chief.
True.
He was coming back from the island of Tinian to Lady. Just delivered the bomb, the Hiroshima bomb.
Something like Little Boy, something like that the bomb was called. Had some really odd name that doesn't match what it was for. We'll get to it.
1,100 men went into the water. Vessel went down in 12 minutes.
Yep.
Didn't see the first shark for about half an hour. Tiger, 13-footer. You know that when you're in the water, Chief? You tell by looking from the dorsal to the tail. What we didn't know was our bomb mission had been so secret, no distress signal had been sent. They didn't even list us overdue for a week. Very first light, Chief. Sharks come cruising.
He's still present, so he's still cognitively aware of what he's doing. He hasn't drifted. He's beginning the monologue, the story, and he's going to have to go into events. And if I remember it, there's a complete sea change. And Dreyfus in the background is like, he's just waiting.
So we formed ourselves into tight groups. It's kind of like old squares in a battle, like you see in a calendar, like the Battle of Waterloo, and the idea was, shark comes to the nearest man, that man he start pounding and hollering and screaming. Sometimes the shark would go away. Sometimes he wouldn't go away.
Ooh.
Sometimes that shark, he looks...
Just look at his gaze. He's not there. He's there and he's not there. Sometimes the shark would go away and sometimes it wouldn't. Oh dear, the absolute terror. The absolute horror. Based on a real story. Absolutely real story. To what degree? How much did Hollywood inject its need to have a little bit more drama, but without hurting the actual memory of the real event? We'll find out.
Right into your eyes. You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes. When he comes at you, he doesn't seem to be living until he bites you. And those black eyes roll over white, and then... then you hear that terrible high-pitched screaming. The ocean turns red, and in spite of all the pounding and the hollering, they all come in and they rip you to pieces.
Oh.
By the end of that first dawn, lost 100 men. I don't know how many sharks, maybe 1,000. I don't know how many men, they average 6 an hour. On Thursday morning, Chief, I bumped into a friend of mine, Herbie Robinson from Cleveland. Baseball.
Now, from what I know, Herbie Robinson isn't a real character. He wasn't listed as on the record as being on the Indianapolis. But what they do here is brilliant because it personalizes. It creates a narrative within a narrative. So you can start to imagine, even subconsciously, quickly, Herbie had a family. Herbie was a real person. Herbie came from a place. He played baseball. Herbie became real as opposed to just lots of men dying, but once you pull it in and you give the story a focus, not that it needed it, it's great writing. Great writing.
Player, bosun's mate.
Yep, gives him a bosun's
Thought he was
mate.
asleep. Reached over to wake him up. Bobbed up and down in the water. It was like a kind of top. Upended. Well, he'd been bitten in half below the waist.
That smile's not comfort, that's reliving trauma. When you tell something, it's the same with the police. When someone has to retell their action against them, it's reliving trauma. So that's why it's not as done as often. Because the more you have somebody go over the event, not therapeutically, but in terms of law, you're reliving the event. He's reliving the event here. And the subtle changes in his eyes, it's phenomenal acting. Because having to go into the trauma now. So he's introduced the story. Now he's right there in his mind, in that narrative of this character, of anybody that's been in a trauma, he'll be there. There'll be a real strong, visceral connection.
Noon the 5th day, Mr. Hooper, Lockheed Ventura. So he swung in low and he saw us. He was a young pilot, a lot younger than Mr. Hooper anyway. He saw us and he come in low, and 3 hours later a big fat PBY comes down and started to pick us up. You know, that was the time I was most frightened, waiting for my turn. I'll never put on a life jacket again.
That's the zone of proximal danger. You're coming from something to something. We'll talk about that in the next movie I've got lined up. When you're escaping from something to freedom is when he's at his most vulnerable emotionally, because you're in a place which is dangerous. Freedom is on the horizon, but you're not there yet. It's just an illusion. It's there, it's not a reality. You can't conceive of it happening until it happens, because you're in self-defense mode. And we'll talk about the next movie clip.
So 1,100 men went in the war. 316 men come out. The Sharks took the rest June the 29th, 1945.
I don't think that's totally accurate. The date and the crew and everything, numbers is.
We delivered the bomb.
They did. I don't think that's necessarily true. That many died. But we'll find out. And the conditions, it was warm. A lot of men died because there wasn't cold water they went into. It was warm in that they wouldn't die from hypothermia. A lot died from dehydration, attrition. Sharks, yes, for sure, but I don't know how many. And I've got a story about the Indianapolis to come on, but I want to go into the next scene, which I want to look at as a movie I'm going to go and watch.